You need about 1/3 or 1/4 that much paint.
Okay.
A 1/2 inch ribbon instead of
Okay.
2 inch ribbon.
So these are already pre-mixed, right?
So is that still?
Yes, right. And if you're going to use mine, then just keep a lid lightly on them. You don't have to snap it just so that they don't dry up. Phew, okay. You going to go buy stuff?
No.
Oh, how much ratio?
Yes, so I put that much paint in.
Okay.
And you should.
Is this your whole jar of?
Yeah. Is that not enough?
No.
I'll sneak out later then.
And if you, okay, let me make this.
You need to tell them when you do the thing here, tell them that you need the large thing, because I bought this based on what they said.
Oh, you're right.
So you either tell them or put it on your little notes that you need the large.
Yeah, I didn't get the
I
large.
do need to correct them.
Yeah, because that's why we bought those.
That's why we bought them, yeah. Just as easy to buy them.
This is not technically the right stuff. It'll probably work. Let me show you. The wording was, and I'm sure this is what was in the website, gloss, medium, and varnish. They gave you gloss varnish. This will probably work. I'm confident enough that I'm willing to let you take the gamble. Is that
It's not your painting.
Is that right? Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice of me? So do you see how much I did?
I did.
And that's probably, what kind of paint is, what brand paint is this? Is this golden? You have some golden back there.
Yeah, this is from Bucker.
Okay, that's probably more paint than you need. In the next ones, put slightly less paint than that, but that's close.
Okay, thank you.
And everybody gets a bucket of water. There's all kinds of buckets back there by the sink. Here's my bucket of water.
Is that too small of water?
It is kind of small.
Okay, that's fine. I'll go get a bucket.
You'll just be making more trips back to the sink.
Okay.
Oh, and I was going to go around and do names, but I've got this crazy camera. Tell you what, I'm going to pause you guys for a minute because we're going to introduce ourselves. We'll be back in just a few minutes, in case maybe. And I didn't ask, I got some impression. It sounds like, well, Andy's coming back into it after years and years. Cindy, you described yourself as a novice.
I'm really a novice. I mean, I've dabbled.
But you've taken a couple classes.
I've taken a couple classes with you. I took one with someone else.
Did you take one of my drawing classes by any chance?
No.
Okay.
I was back.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. That's the one.
Classes.
I offer that. That's what I teach the most here at Jerry's is drawing, and I really enjoy. Have you ever taken one of my drawing classes? I don't think so. Well, that's sort of what every painting class I go, oh darn! I wish you all had been or were in my drawing class because honestly, the great majority of problems that painting students have with their paintings are drawing issues.
Yes.
And today we're not, I'm going to kind of stick somewhat to the agenda. So we're not going to spend a lot of time focusing on how to draw. That's a separate agenda, separate class, separate day, okay? Partly because I just want to be faithful to sort of what we advertise this class to be, but at the same time I'm meshing that with where your needs are. So let me try to go in the right direction. Okay, first of all, the handouts that I've handed out. This, we're not going to go through this step by step. This is just for your own reference, especially to just put this aside, and after you go home and you're scratching your head and you're trying to say, well, what did we do? Mm-hmm. Okay, this will answer that question. And as you'll see, each of these paintings, I don't follow the exact, it's not like always A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. It's kind of A, B, kind of C, kind of 1, 2, 3. Every painting is a little bit different, okay? So, but this will help you. So we're not going to go through that. That's just for your own personal reference. Now, the other handout that I gave you, it sounds to me like most of you paint somewhat. Andy used to paint, and Cindy's has been painting. So I think I do want to talk about this. And again, I'm not going to read this to you. This handout stands on its own, but I want to describe the content to you. Next Sunday, I'm going to be driving down to Aberdeen, Southern Pines, to judge 300 pieces of artwork again. And then in a couple months, I'm doing it again down in Wilmington. Are you from
Southport.
Yeah, I'll be in Wilmington. And I just say that because this is the judge talking. Dan the judge. I want to kind of let you into my world, let you know what I feel, sense, and experience when I'm walked in. First of all, and I love judging. One of the things I like saying is the word art and judging should not appear in the same sentence. In some sense, because it's like, why have we turned this beautiful thing into competition? Well, it's because we're human beings. But it's not the be all and end all. So I like being the judge because I like being able to soften the blow to everybody that I'm judging. And I always say, we gave out, first, second, third, and honorable mention. And I always want to say, if I'd have been allowed to give away one more award, it would have been your painting. I want you came that close. But when I look at a room full of paintings, typically, at whatever that level is, kind of a local, regional art, they don't invite me to judge the oil painters of America. Okay, let's just be clear about this. I'm trying to get into Oil Painters of America. I am not judging. Okay, so again, I'm just trying to give you a realistic beat about where I fit in the pecking order. But I'll look at rows and rows and rows of paintings. And the majority, yeah, probably. The majority of the paintings that I will see next weekend will be people who were doing their dead level best to render, achieve a reasonable similitude, to realistically portray blank, wine glasses, landscape, dog, Whistler's mother, whatever it is. That's most of what I see will be people who are trying to copy the photograph, okay? And most of those people, to exaggerate, but would give their right arm if they could copy it perfectly, okay? Now, several of you this morning have already said you kind of like impressionistic, and that's good. I've always got this little, in spite of everything I'm about to say, I've always got this little tug of war going on inside my brain because I have good friends who paint hyper-realism. And some of them are quite successful. Some of them have beat the pants off me in competitions. That's the judge's problem. And some of them are actually fairly famous, and so on and so forth. And so you know what I mean. So I've always got this. I've got the ghosts of these friends, and kind of folding their arms and listening to this lecture that I'm giving right now, or actually watching me on YouTube possibly. Okay, but most people wanna draw, render, copy the thing. And I'll kind of breathe a sigh of like, there's another one. Yep, and there's another one. And there's another one. I want to be clear. There will always be a market, a taste for it. Not even a market. We don't have to bring even finances or money into it. There will always be a taste for, there will always be people who like an accurately rendered thing. In fact, if we're in our right minds, you and I, when we're online, right, or on YouTube, say, and it says, here's a face that the person took 600 hours to draw, right? We kind of roll our eyes, but at the same time we go, golly, that's amazing, don't we? Now, like if you're an art professor, you're not supposed to admit that you had those feelings. Or if you have an MFA, you're not supposed to admit, you're just supposed to be all grumpy. But that's ridiculous. We human beings, we do get a kick out of seeing things accurately rendered. Okay, we do. But, great big but coming, can you hear? As much as I might be impressed by super realism, it's when all of a sudden I come face to face with what I call, kind of arrogantly call, real painting, that I'm rocked on my heels. It's like, whoa! Enough with the super realism, which has its place, but when all of a sudden I see somebody who knows what they're doing, and there's brush strokes and there's marks and so on and so on and so forth. It's like, oh, no, I was right after all. This, and what I call real painting, and I usually, when I talk on YouTube, whatever, I reference, Rembrandt, Frans Hals, the great, Italian and Dutch painters of 300 years ago, not the ones that were tongue painting like this, even Vermeer a little bit. He did some nice pictures, but his pictures, and I always mispronounce the word on purpose, his pictures can't hold a candle to a Rembrandt, to a good Rembrandt. By the way, a lot of fake Rembrandts out there. But anyway, this sheet in front of you, so I'll reference it very quickly. I put this together maybe a year ago. Have you seen this, Rebecca? Did I do this in one of my classes? Okay. I think that this is a fascinating study, and I'm going to name names here. So the picture on the left here is by Robert Wood. Anybody here? None of you are old enough to remember. We had a Robert Wood print hanging in our living room in the 1960s. In fact, it was like 25% of the homes in America in the 1960s had a Robert Wood print hanging in their living room. He was outrageously well-known, famous. Kind of like Thomas Kincaid today, same kind of thing. And here's his painting on the left. At the very same time, 1950s in America, this other guy, Edgar Payne, the father of the California School of Plein Air Painting, was also pretty famous. And here we are, 60, nearly 70 years later. In fact, my 30-something-year-old daughter, when I showed this to her, when I made it a cup, she said, "Oh yeah, that one on the left looks like thrift store. It looks like something you'd see at Goodwill." And she's exactly right, okay? What is it about this that makes it look old-fashioned? Well, that's sort of what I want to explain to you. And with all this talking, I hope I'm not talking too much, but I want to give you a trajectory where we want to go today. The one on the right, and by the way, yes, the Edgar Payne, who is, maybe you could say they were both brilliant, but what Robert Wood, the point of his painting was he was painting a picture. Forgive me, picture. He's painting a picture of a place that gave you nostalgic feelings. Oh, I wish I was walking on that path. Look at those trees. Look at that water. Look at those weeds. I wish I was there. Do you hear? Sentimentality. By the way, Thomas Kincaid saying, and by the way, I love saying good things about Kincaid. He was a very good painter, so don't say bad things about him because I'll laugh at you unless you're better than him. And I'm not better than him, so I don't laugh at him. Humility is being able to learn anything from anybody, and I've learned a lot from Thomas Kincaid. Okay, so I don't like snobbery at all. But Edgar Payne here on the right, and I picked these two pictures because their subject matter is pretty similar. Big trees, water, field, distant hills, atmospheric perspective. The difference is that Edgar Payne was taking all of these elements, trees, water, hills, sky, and just using them as an excuse to show off the abstract elements of composition of design. Light, shade, color, edges, shapes, values. Does that make sense? He used those trees to say, watch, want to see some color? Bam, here's some color. Whereas Robert Wood on the left says, want to see some pretty trees? Oh, I can paint such pretty trees. Forgive me for sounding a little bit ridicule-ish. He's a good man and a good painter. But this is not, so what I want us to do today is to aim for this, not this, okay? And everything that I say today is right until 5:01, okay? Then you can take the whole day and flush it and say, that was ridiculous. I'm never doing that again for the rest of my life. But until then, I'm going to teach you what I think is the best way to paint. And of course, I'm right until 5 o'clock. So that saves me having to make all kinds of excuses and caveats throughout the rest of the day, because I've already made that explanation. Okay, we are going to use this, and everybody should have one of these. If you don't, I got plenty. We're going to use this as a jumping off point. And this is this is a mediocre photograph that I took. All of my photographs are mediocre. Sometimes, every once in a while, I take a half-decent one, and I think I can take half-decent photographs until I see a real professional take pictures, and then I go, oh. I guess, okay? So, like me, you probably take lousy photographs. So, first thing I would like to say is, why on earth would you ever want to do a good copy of a bad photograph? So, this is just a launching pad. This is just a jumping off point. This gives us some subject matter. It happens to be, by the way, does anybody recognize it?
Is that Oakland?
Nope, Charleston. Yeah. You just moved up from Charleston, didn't
Yeah, I
you?
looked at this and I said, wow, it's just, that's.
It has that Charleston feel, doesn't it? Yeah. So, like some of you, I've tromped around Charleston. Can't wait till the next time, and just every turn is a jaw-dropping picture. Yeah, and so that's what that is, and we're going to use that again just as a jumping off point. One more introductory comment, I think. If you want to come up with one word to put me in a pigeonhole, like Dan Nelson, where do we put him? The answer would be transparent. Okay, I'm bonkers about transparent layers. I'm out of sync with my generation. Don't feel sorry for me, because it turns out I'm in sync with every great painter you can name before 1890. That's who I paint like. All the great painters painted in transparent layers, finishing with opaque impasto. Okay? In the 20th century, we had to learn that the canvas was flat, which was true. We did have to learn that. So transparent paint went out of vogue early in the 20th century. But now I feel like, guess what? We've learned the lesson. We now know and the canvas is flat. Or what that means is we now know that we're not painting pictures. Get it? In fact, that's what the bad example of Robert Wood that I showed you a minute ago. He was trying to show you depth. Well, so was Edgar Payne, but he was doing it through abstract design. Anyway. I'm cutting. That's a really fine hair. But so we're going to paint We're going to paint transparent. And we're going to start with big brushes because I want you to make a mess. Okay, and I have a whole bunch of brushes. You need to have a brush like this. If you don't have a brush like this, then you need to use one of mine. Nope, that's too nice, Cindy. Yes, that is clean and predictable. Mary? Almost, not quite. Mary, can I throw this back there? Okay. Good. Okay. That's borderline. I'll let you use mine anyway. I mean, by the way, all the brushes you just showed me are perfectly fine. Don't throw them out. It's just not what I want for this step in the painting process. This is by far my most used brush. Is this, which is it's so nice that my favorite brush costs 89 cents. Woohoo! What a boon! What a stroke of luck! So you can if you want to, you don't have to clean them. If you buy them at home at Harbor Freight, you can get them for 33 cents a piece. 100 of them for $10 or $3. I can't remember. Anyway, they're really cheap, and you don't have to clean them if you don't want. You can throw them out, which is great freedom. But the reason I like them is because they're unpredictable and messy. How many of you would describe yourself as, well, I'm kind of tight, but I'd like to get loose?
No, I'm too loose.
Oh, are you really?
I'm too loose, yeah.
That's
I
wonderful.
could care less if I'm cutting things.
That's what I've only known.
I'll go shopping like that.
That's Mary, I can't wait to see you paint. Well, this could be dangerous. The first half of this class could be...
Keep your distance.
Keep your distance from me.
No, slide it in right here.
Okay, and my way of painting is right until 5 o'clock. And here's what I'm going to do with you. So this is a little weird, but I want you to know. I'm going to have you paint exactly the way I'm painting right now. Okay, I'm not holding any secrets back, and I'm always evolving. Those of you who follow me, you know I'm always evolving. Like not at breakneck speed. That's out of control creativity. I'm going to give you the crazy stuff that I'm doing right now. If you take from me in a year, I'll be doing something slightly different. Okay, I've been basically on this same track for 15 years. So it's, you know, this transparent glazes underneath and so on and so forth. But so anyway, so we're going to do some weird things. The first weird thing we're going to do, because this is what I'm doing lately, is we're looking at this image. I don't think that is sky up there in the corner. I think it's a roof, don't you?
It's really,
But I think it would be a better painting if we let a little bit of air and let that be some sky up there. Just edit, so maybe that, whatever that big wall is, I don't know what it is. Mary, do you recognize this place in Charleston?
I want to say it's.
Is that a wall of a
It's
church
like a
or?
church.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm thinking we should just shorten that. I'm getting way ahead of myself. It looks to me like the prevailing color of this painting is going to be decidedly warm. It's sunshine, and it's the main house is yellow. There's a nice bit of cool with that tin roof there. That's whatever color that is, turquoise or something. Okay, it's going to be warm. So because it's going to be a warm painting, and it's got a bunch of vertical shapes, those pillars on the porch, here's what we're going to do. Take a big brush and a cool color, blue, ultramarine or purple. I'm trying to decide. Ultramarine or purple.
Or both.
Well, both. Sure, a little bit of both. Ultramarine and purple. And again, if you need these, I'm right here. Where did our purple go?
right here.
Oh, okay, good. Here, you and I will share.
I don't have purple colors.
You don't have purple yet?
No, do
put it on the edge of your.
Bless you.
There you go.
Whatever it's easier.
Oh, and forgive me. I am going to paint with two hands. Okay, how many? Do y'all know I paint with two hands?
I think that's so cool.
Okay. I used to be much nicer. Sorry you weren't here when I was nice. I used to let you paint with one hand, and you still can. But I used to not paint with two hands in class because I wanted to be kind to my students, but I've gotten old and ornery. Anybody here a musician?
Yeah.
What do you play?
Yeah.
How many hands do you use? Of course you do. Of course. Every musician except the harmonica player uses two hands, and even he does a little bit. So artists can. Okay. Here's the kind of shape I want you to make on your canvas. Looking at this image, I'm going to do something like this. Why am I doing something like this?
We got an idea.
Yeah. So, now, if you watch me on YouTube, you do have an idea. You can see me do this on virtually every painting. I will tell you that the mark that I'm making, first of all, it's energetic, happy, bold. It covers the whole canvas. Do that. And then I'll explain why we're doing that. We're using a cool color because we believe we're going to end up with a warm painting. We're starting opposite. We're doing this shape because we believe that when we're done this painting, there's going to be a bunch of vertical lines. The pillars on the porches will be very vertical, and so we're starting out with the opposite of that. Opposite is the word. Okay? Now, if you don't think this is weird, you're not paying attention. Okay, so I want you to go, that's weird. If you just think it, don't pretend like, except Rebecca, who's been down this path enough times, and she already knows how weird this is. Why am I doing this? I don't want to talk you to death.
It's okay.
Because first of all, I'm playing mental tricks on myself, and you are too. I am tricking myself, or I'm convincing myself that I'm not painting a picture. I'm painting a painting. So the very first marks on my canvas are the very opposite of realism. I mean, as far away from realism as I get. This is going to be a warm painting, so we started with a cool color. This is going to be a painting with a bunch of verticals, so we did an X right through the vertical. Okay? Another answer. Why am I doing this? Because every step of the painting process is underpainting until the very last step. And then, I don't know why we don't use the term overpainting, because that's what it is. But lately I've been using the term final edit. So everything up, and we're going to have like 12, 13, 14 distinct layers of paint or stages of painting on our canvas. Each one is preliminary until, the last one, then it's final edit. Okay? The last layer is the only one where we even approach tongue painting. Carefulness like this. And hopefully we won't literally have to do that. Each layer, especially in the very early stages, we want to create a certain degree of chaos on the canvas, literally chaos, visual, but pretty chaos. Okay? And I don't know what your canvases look like, but right? If this was my market, I could sign this and sell it for $10,000, right? If only that's what I was known for. Maybe someday I'll strike it rich. Somebody in New York will say, darling, we like the paintings. And I can say, 10,000 and it's yours. And then there'll be a run, break my heart. I'd be so silent to do, 1 million of those and make $1 million. That would just be terrible. But it is a pretty painting, right? Are you with me? And I hope yours is too. If you did what I did, drips are nice, drips are good, different colors. But the word I want you to kind of grasp in particular is chaos. Chaos is good. Chaos is our friend. And now Mary, who may be the exception to the rule, if you're loose, you already like chaos. You're already comfortable in chaos, perhaps. Perhaps. Okay, so by the way, I had to talk for a little while that dried a little bit. What to do next? Here's what I normally do. We're going to, while this is drying, we could wait 10 minutes or 5 minutes more for this to dry completely, but I don't want to waste that much time. And if we waited for it to dry, then we could put another bit of chaos, same kind of thing, different color, different shapes on top of this, and this would still show through. That would be nice. You with me? That would be nice. If we do something to it right now while it's wet, what's going to happen? It'll just meld together and truly become maybe not such a pretty. I see that. And I have extra, by the way. Okay, so find a small brush or two. I've got, this is the size I'm going to use. These are Silver Grand Prix number 4 filberts. Round is okay. Flats are okay, as long as you don't use them on the flat. So, something like this, these two.
Okay.
Well, you don't have, I'm sorry. If you want to paint with 2 hands, you need 2
Sure,
brushes.
why not?
Yeah, you have a
That you
great
only
assortment.
use for oils?
No.
These are only-
You can use them for both oil and acrylic. Yeah, AC Moore had a brilliant marketing coup. They said, I know, let's say these brushes are for acrylics and these are for oil. Then our customers will have to buy each. Brilliant. Mean.
Not true.
Not true. Not true at all. Just a brilliant marketing strategy. So, I've used the same brushes for 30 years, 40 years, for both oil and acrylic. And watercolor, by the way, so it doesn't matter a bit. Okay, you ready? So we're going to do some drawing now. And since we started out in this purple blue, let's continue in purple blue. So we're just being nice to ourselves by not introducing some crazy new color. By the way, does anybody here have a piece of tape?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't come prepared to. Oh, fantastic!
Can I
I
have a
want
little piece too?
Yeah, I want to. We'll pass the tape around. Thank you, Nancy. I want to tape this up here so I have it right in front of me.
Not where it won't float in the trash can. And
Yeah. Okay, watch me for just a minute, and I'm going to do some drawing. I'm taking a rough guess. Now, I'm a pretty good drawer, but I want you to draw fairly quickly, as accurately as you can. here's the big difference, I think, between a more mature painter and perhaps a less mature one. Is the less mature painters tend to put lines down and then believe them. Does that make sense? So this is just your first guess, your first out of the gate guess. Watch me for just a few more minutes or seconds. Because all of these marks that I'm making right now are subject to change. And most of them will be corrected or modified to some degree. Now I tried to pick a subject matter that was not too difficult. It's a little bit complicated, but it basically is just 1 point perspective, right? The vanishing point is here, and all these the lines on the front of that house disappear there. And there's a flag, of course. Forgive me, I'm thinking out loud. I sort of think, and I've done, by the way, as you saw this, my painting of this on the marketing materials. I've done this scene before. I think it would be better if the flag were up close. So I think I'm going to move my flag. From there, you don't have to, you may if you want, but I'm moving it from there to there. I just feel like it'll be a slightly better, more interesting composition. Okay, and there's some branches over here, and here's a great big. Okay, do something like that. Okay.
Are we gonna include the house behind it, or is that part of the
Yes,
house?
the brown wall, or the yellow house. Yeah, definitely. That's this line right here is the edge of that yellow house. I guess there's a roof line. I just hadn't done that, and there's windows here, and windows here. My new flag is going to hide some of that yellow house. The part of what I want you to see with my sketch here is how much to draw. We're not drawing the whole thing. We're just getting some of the major lines. And so give yourself about 2 minutes. It is true, one of the hardest things to know as an artist is when is it finished. In my style of painting, we're breaking down the painting process into 12, 13, 14 distinct steps, so that question, when is it finished, is broken down to 12, 13, 14 stages. When is each stage finished? And here's one of the true answers to that question is it's always finished before you think it is. So if throughout the day, if I gave you as much time as you wanted to finish each stage, you would overdo it. Does that make sense? So yes, it's going to be all afternoon. We are going to be in hurry up mode. Okay, so if you should feel rushed, just kind of try to get over it. We're going to be rushed. Because if I don't rush you, you'll paint poorly. Okay, more poorly perhaps. Okay, so maybe another 30 seconds or so to get some of these lines in place. Now, I know that I'm already demanding much of you. Some of you are perhaps chafing under the pressure of drawing things rightly. Let me give you one real quick trick. If you're not good at linear perspective, and by the way, if you've given it the old college try to learn if it, has any of you tried to learn linear perspective, like you've read the book or you've taken a class or you've watched the YouTube, okay, you should try it once, or, give it a good shot. If you really don't get it, then I recommend you don't ever try again, because in 30 years of teaching, I've never seen one light bulb come on, ever, for a person who didn't get it, and then after some brilliant teaching, that they got it. So if you don't get it, you have to learn to cope and compensate. Here's one compensating. Every line that you just drew can be compared to a time on an analog clock. 3, 6, 9. Every line. Let's take this one right here, for instance. If we made this the middle of the clock, then you could say, well, that's pointing at just a little bit. It's like, 6 or whatever, 34 past the hour. See, that will help you get angles right. Now, if you there's many ways to do this. That's just one way. But every line that you just drew should point in the right direction, or your drawing is going to be off. And again, so this is not a drawing class. If you have a hard time with perspective, you're already not liking this painting, but that's right, you can do a Van Gogh version of this painting, as long as it has lots of energy. Elizabeth, are you happy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good, good.
I'm happy to learn.
Excellent.
I'm the perfect person to just show me, and I'll try it.
Good, good.
I'm fearless. And
Good for you. Good
So,
for you.
whatever.
Okay, everybody done that drawing? I declare you finished. You're done. Okay, while we were doing that, now the first thing that we put down should be dry, or mostly dry. Here's a trick. If you take one of the big brushes that you used a little while ago, and you want it damp. Do you like my jeans? I do too. So I can just wipe my brush. I want it damp. And you can run your brush over the whole canvas just real quickly with very energetic strokes, bold strokes. And if there's any piles of paint that aren't dry yet, you'll smear them out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And they'll dry very quickly. Plus, if you do this with great energy, you'll get nice, energetic marks on your canvas at the same time. Okay? Okay, at this point, there's so many different directions we can go. Let's do something slightly predictable. We're gonna, yeah, that's right.
Really?
Proper reactions. And let's add some warm sunlight to this scene. So, warm is yellow or orange, or yellow and orange. And this, when I say yellow, if I want warm, like your yellow is perfect, we want warm yellow. Not all yellows are warm. That's a long lecture. Google me, where I give the long lecture about warm and cool yellows, warm and cool blues, warm and cool reds, and so on and so on and so on and so on and so forth. But if you combine both yellow and orange, perfect. And as you're seeing already, this is part of why I paint with two hands. I mix the two colors on my brushes, and it saves time. And what I want to paint right now is anything, all the sunlight, anything that's sunlight, because the sunlight is warm, or anything that's warm colored in this photograph. So two things. Warm color, like the yellow house or the brown wall in the background. That's warm, right? Brown is warm. And sunlight. So watch me. This is going to be very quick. So here we go. I'm done.
That's so predictable.
Yeah, that's right. Slightly more predictable. Thank you, Cindy. Okay? That's what you were going to do. I know, that's just what I was going to do. Cindy says. Thank you. Go. Okay? This should, if you take more than 25 seconds doing this, you're doing it wrong. So this is not going to take a long time. This is very fast. Let me repeat what I said earlier. Every step of the painting process, we're in step 3, by the way. We're in layer 3 already, right? Every step infuses the canvas with a little more visual chaos. And that's what most of us need in the final edit step. In the final edit, we want lots of stuff to edit, lots of stuff to respond to. So, yeah, all these drips, and you can see, by the way, that evidently my purple was not dry. See how it's running? But isn't that pretty? It's not a pretty picture of anything, it's just really interesting texture and color. I like it already. We might be able to do a little bit more before we leave this stage. Yeah, let's break out the red. Oh, and speaking of breaking out the red, and I didn't catch you on this, Elizabeth. When you're painting in transparent colors, it's not the same as painting in opaque colors. And red is the biggest exception. There's no such thing as transparent red. This is weird. I don't know exactly how to say this. But if you take a normal cadmium red or scarlet lake or red, fire engine red, and thin it down, make it transparent, it turns pink. It doesn't look like transparent red. It looks like bubblegum pink, or if I may, it looks like Nancy's shirt pink, which is lovely on you, my dear. But that's not, we don't call that transparent red. It doesn't read in our brain like, oh, hey, that's transparent. No, it's pink. Okay? And we don't want pink. So the solution, believe it or not, is you have to go to a magenta red.
Okay.
The 4-color printing process. Anybody know what the 4 colors are? CMYK? Cyan, which is the blue. M, magenta. That's right. They don't use red in 4-color printing. Isn't that weird? In 4-color, the printers are doing a print of a fire engine, it's magenta, which is this pinkish, purplish, fuchsia-ish color with yellow on top of it, and then it's red. And that's the way we're painting as well. So if we want red, we're going to do magenta
So should I
with
wash
yellow
this
on top of it.
magenta in there instead?
Yeah, probably. I mean, you can use that somewhere, but yeah, sure. Sorry I didn't catch you first, Elizabeth. Yeah, you could rinse it out. Well, it's not much loss. Do you have a magenta? Yeah, excellent. Okay, so what is in my little container here is red, magenta. I'm going to take a slightly smaller brush, if you don't mind. I've been using these up until this point, so I'll get rid of the big one. And I'm going to just pick up a little bit of red on these brushes. The reason we can go straight to red before this yellow is dry is because the yellow and red when mixed together just create orange, and they don't clash with each other. That makes sense? So we don't have to wait for the yellow to dry. And there's 2 places basically that I want to throw in some red. One is where that flag is going to be, and are you guys moving your flag with me? Or are you leaving it? Or are you leaving it where it was? Either one, you make your own correction. Okay. So if you're putting it where I'm putting it, then watch this and let this sink in. I'm going to paint the red flag. You ready? That's exactly what Cindy was going to do. Okay? Again, that should look weird. If that doesn't seem weird, you're not paying attention. Why am I, can I talk in teaching point? Why am I doing that? That is so weird. Why do you color so far outside the lines? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons. One is I want chaos. Here's another breakable law of painting. There are laws. They can all be broken, but if you don't know what the laws are, you're probably just screwing up. Okay, so one of the laws is we, the human animal, we like seeing little bits of the object that have escaped into the background and little bits of the background that have escaped into the object. In this case, we have a red flag. Well, it's going to be red and white, but the red is the positive. The white is the absence of the red. Are you with me? It's not a white flag. Are you with me? It's a red flag with white stripes. Okay. The fact, when I paint it that messy, red is escaping out of the flag into the surrounding porch, railing, house, whatever is behind it. And when we get down to final edit, we're going to go, dang, it was brilliant that I made that red, because look how good it looks. Why? Because our eye likes seeing little bits of the object that has escaped into the background. Here's the classic, when I usually describe this. If you're painting a red barn against the blue sky, some of the red from the barn should have escaped into the blue sky, and some of the blue sky should have escaped into the red barn. So if you paint this way, that happens automatically. it just happens. Let me do the next step. Oh, and by the way, I'm very wet here, so I don't particularly like that run, but it's okay. The other place that I'm going to do red is there's bricks, reddish bricks down here under the stairs, and reddish bricks in the foundation of the first house. And the wall in the very far background has a slight reddish cast to it. You with me? So again, if you want to watch me, so there's the stairs, there's the foundation, and there's the red wall in the distance. I'm done. Go. Yes, and I know I keep saying but if you don't think this is weird, you're not paying attention. Okay? Yeah, that's a perfectly proper reaction. Again, Rebecca's been through it enough times that she knew she was coming to weird, but the rest of you haven't taken this from me before. Cindy, did we do this last time?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Cindy's taken it before too. Yeah. So you had some idea.
Yes.
Good.
Like it?
And came back anyway. Can you believe it?
It's a challenge.
Is this kind of like blocking?
That it is like blocking,
Okay.
except instead of block, I'm blobbing.
Blocking, yeah, but it's the same kind of thought.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So here's what I have against blocking.
Just to-
When you block it, yeah, this is cutesy, but when you block in, you lock in. That's right. It's too
But
stiff,
it's
too
the
strict. Yes, exactly. Same basic concept. It's just looser. It's messy blocking in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's transparent.
I like
So
this a lot
so
better.
so all the colors build up on top of each other. Okay, now I really have to wait for mine to dry. I can't. It's so soupy. I can't do anything. But again, I would like you to look at this, and I hope if there's a child still alive and kicking inside you, the little child is going, oh, that is so cool. And I hope you're getting the same thing from your own canvas. I've not seen yours. I haven't taken to her. Yeah, Elizabeth? Beautiful. I mean, if that was your style, $10,000 in New York.
Yeah,
There you go. Beautiful.
that's for it.
Beautiful. Okay? Okay, we're going to do the next weird thing. And I brought pencils for all of you to borrow. Yep. How many of you know that I've used pencils in my paintings? Yeah, good. Rebecca, you know all about my pencils. Cindy, would you hand one of these back to
I will.
Okay.
Now, they're not the oil.
Yeah,
They're oil.
these are the ones that you see me using.
So,
They are oil-based. That, if you look out there on the shelf, it says oil-based. Now, that's in quotation mark. These are not like oil sticks. It's not like oil paint. It's a lot of charcoal sticks are also wax-based, wax oil, oil wax. So you could also say it's a wax-based pencil. A little bit of history in case for those of you who haven't seen me, haven't heard this on YouTube or Facebook. I started doing this, it's either coming up on 2 years or 3 years. I can't remember now. 2 or 3 years ago, one summer, I did a whole bunch, like 200 abstract paintings in one summer, just for fun. It was like the summer of abstract paintings for me. Abstract is more, you can do whatever you want. By the way, abstract is not easy. It's 100% rules of composition without any picture. So anybody that just is throwing stuff at the canvas, yeah, every once in a while they'll do something good, but not very often because they don't know what they're doing. So it's very academic. In other words, I think abstract painting is very intellectually rigorous. Anyway, but you can use any medium you want. So I started using these pencils and found out that I liked it so much in my abstract work that I thought, maybe I should incorporate that into my normal representation. So I did. And for 2.5 or whatever it is, 3 years now, I've been saying, I don't know if this is a permanent part of my repertoire or not, but right now I like it. So I'm still saying that. If you come back in a year, I might say, pencil, schmencil, that's stupid. Why did we ever use pencils? But at this point, I'm thinking it's not likely. I think this is probably here to stay. Very unconventional to use pencils in an oil painting, okay? And you'll find, I would give these to you. Maybe I should if I was really nice. Okay, tell you what, if you really want mine, you keep it. If you're not sure you're gonna use it, I want it back. Okay. Fair enough? And I'm serious. If you really want it, you keep it. They interact with both acrylics and oil. They interact differently with acrylics and oil, which we'll probably find out. These days, typically, I use the pencil once in the acrylic stage, which we're going to do right now, and then once in the oil stage. But again, quick explanation. This is not like traditional oil painting where you do a charcoal sketch underneath. Anybody ever do that? Or you know somebody did that? That's old time. That's the way my dad painted. That's the way all people painted back 60 years ago. You got out your canvas, you did a real careful charcoal sketch, and then you painted on top of it. This is not that. In those days, they didn't want those charcoal lines to show up in their final painting. These, I want to show up. I'm using them because I like the juxtaposition of scratchy pencil lines with smooshy brush lines. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's a pure abstract, impressionistic reason for using them. Now, it just so happens, by the way, it is actually a pretty cool tool for rendering stuff, right? I mean, most of us kind of grew up in school. You were probably, like me, one of the doodlers in school, right? And you were doodling with a pencil or a pen all the way through school. So this will take you back there. We're about to do now our second layer, our second drawing, okay? And here, I want to reiterate what I said a little while ago. All the marks that are on your canvas right now, you're going to try to ignore them. Definitely try to improve on them. Don't just repeat them. You're going to edit. You're going to go, well, that's where I put that line last time. But now that I've been staring at this picture a little bit longer, I think this line should be there instead. And you completely then ignore your previous line and use your pencil to draw your new edit. Does that make sense? Okay? So if you do this right, now let me back up because I know how people feel. If you're not very secure at drawing, the term I use is you want to rush to judgment. You want to hurry up and get the drawing over with and nailed down so that you can relax and then paint. Okay, that's how it feels if you're not very secure about your drawing. And what I'm doing is pulling back on your rein and say, whoa, no, don't do that. Don't rush. Instead, give yourself time, because we're going to do 14 layers on this painting. Give yourself 14 chances to get each line right. Okay? So you don't just blindly believe the lines you put down earlier. You reconsider. So, and again, using that clock face, let me do it for you for just a minute, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, first of all, that line up there, I'm going to move that down slightly. Now that's pretty close. I call that a near miss. Okay, and I'm going to move it out slightly. Now, please understand that even the lines I'm doing now, I'm not going to believe next layer. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to trust them just because I'm putting them out. Doesn't mean they're right. It's just my next best guess. Oh, by the way, here's another. Do you see me? If you're not good at linear perspective, I'm looking at this line right here, and I'm holding my pencil up like that and saying it's an angle like that. Okay? So that's how you compensate if you're not good at linear perspective. You just do stuff like this. Then again, now I'm looking at this line, you see? So I'll hold my pencil up like that. Okay. So, see, that's quite a bit, that triangle is quite a bit different from the first one I did. Now, let me explain something here that's really, really, really fun. When you paint in many layers, discrete, distinct layers, not only is it okay for your earlier layers to be erroneous, it's actually advantageous for your early layer. And that's so counterintuitive. Like, that's ridiculous. Let me explain it. And then you go, oh, that does make sense. Let's imagine that the first time you put a line down in purple, you nailed it. You put it exactly. Then you take your pencil, put that one exactly. And 14 layers later, you've put that mark right dead on every single time, and your final edit, you agree with it? Boring. Exactly. Whereas if you do it wrong, what you get is this really fascinating vibration, jittery, like, which our eyes love. See, that's the difference between good painting and bad painting. A bad painting is all exactly correct and accurate, and dead. That's what I'm going to see next Sunday. And when I go and judge the show, they're going to say, bless their little heart. You know, they drew that sail on that sailboat and they nailed it. Whereas if there's a more mature painting, which there will be in the show, the more mature painter, that sail will be jittery. It won't be. Are you with me? And the all things being equal, the jittery one will be the superior painting. And hard for beginners to understand that, because they're going, well, I did it more accurate. How come I didn't win first place? Are you with me? And I'll explain all this to the people. By the way, I love trying to explain why I choose what I choose. And by the way, sometimes there is a realistic painting that, when all's said and done, yeah, but that's just amazing. And so they, you know, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that when I judge, you lose if you do super realism. But you don't necessarily win either. But okay. So does that make sense? So it's actually good when you make these corrections. Let me do just a little bit more. I'm going to say one other thing. There, that was a good example. Your lines are supposed to be interesting. So not so much stiff. By the way, I would recommend not holding the pencil this way, because this is your death control grip. I moved this line now from here all the way over to there. And I'm going to move this one all the way over to here. And this is not my final edit. See, next time around, I might go, what was I thinking? I may go back the other way. Are you with me? I just really want to make sure you understand. Here's see the row of windows, tops of windows up there? I'm going to draw all those with one line. Then there's a roof thing here. By the way, this is the real easy way to draw with two hands, is just put the two pencils together and you get two lines for the price of one. That's not even anybody can do that. You don't have to be ambidextrous at all. When I started painting with two hands about 10 or 12 years ago, I was not ambidextrous at all. My left hand couldn't do anything. But little by little, over the years, I had become more so. Okay, that might be enough for you to watch. I'm going to continue to draw, but I think you may continue to draw as well. This is a slower step. This is slower. But no more than 7 minutes, 6 minutes probably, just to give yourself a frame of reference. We're not going to spend 20 minutes getting this drawing right. Yes, Mary?
Can I blot some of this paint dry?
Oh, is it? No. That's why we're doing pencils. So the paint is drying. We can drag our pencil right through the wet paint. Does that make sense? We want to, and I haven't looked at any of your paintings yet. I'll come around. Ooh, lovely. Happy surprise. Likewise. No, I will not make fun.
I'm having a good time.
Good. That's. Oh. That was a good. Oh. And actually, your colors are more similar to mine than I thought. Mine is kind of unique from back here. Yeah. Your initial, and that's all right. So your painting will shift because of that.
Yeah, it's very dark.
No, and you're fine. You're fine.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, when you did your yellow is not transparent. That's okay. So that means more medium in it.
Okay.
I mean, it's nothing deadly. It's okay. But in the future, in this painting, when we do a transparent glaze, that doesn't count as transparent. Now it'll get more as it dries. Yeah. So it's still not drying. Sorry about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So drag pencils through it, and it's drying while we. That's part of the reason why I do this drawing early on. Is drawing. How are you doing? Are you awake?
You know how I feel about drawing.
I remember. Bless you.
You forgot.
Yeah.
You would have left this
And I
part
think
out.
you look like you're a comfortable drawer. Are you going to draw? So you're just a natural and you don't know it?
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
That's it. I just,
Yeah. Oh, it looks like you know what you're doing. Fake it till you make it.
that's it. I'm drawing what I see.
Yeah,
what I'm
that-
drawing,
exactly.
what I'm doing.
A little bit of explanation too why I pick the images I do for classes. This is kind of a mediocre scene. What the kind of thing I don't want to pick is a gorgeous mountain scene with the dramatic, atmospheric, and the beautiful pine trees and the waterfall and the deer by the brook. You know, the stuff that is a pretty picture. You know what I mean? Because that would distract you. You'd be distracted by the prettiness of the picture, And this can be a great painting, but you're not swept up by the emotional whatever of the subject matter. Except for Mary, who's from Charleston. She's swept up by the Charleston.
Well, I almost didn't take it because of the columns.
Yeah.
I almost didn't take this class because of the columns.
Because of the really. And by the way, I've only learned against my protest that the image I put in the marketing should be related to the. I didn't used to do that at all. And then I discovered that students actually looked at the picture. I didn't used to do that at all. And then so many students would get mad at me because I thought we were going to do a sailboat. I said, no, that was just an example of a painting. So they beat me into submission. And I now do it. So that's funny, Mary, that you almost avoided the class because you didn't want to do this subject. And here I'm doing it after all. Darn.
I brought my own pictures, brother.
Yeah, right. Which, if this was a 2-day class, on day 2 we would all do our own picture. Sorry. But I have found that on a 1-day class like this, in this amount of rush, it helps if we're all doing the same thing. It gets a little chaotic. Another word for that is gets a little creative, which is a good thing. Okay, so you understand that while we're doing this pencil stuff, our acrylics are drying, which means when we finish, hopefully after however many minutes this is, most of what's left on the canvas will be dry, and then we'll be free to move on to, the next thing, whatever that may be. My wife and I were back in Charleston just a few weeks ago, Mary, and we've been there 3 or 4 times, at least 4. But we were walking around with our jaw hanging open. Again, same as ever. It's like, this is amazing. The other thing that struck us when we were there last time, though, is that that beautiful old Charleston was built on the backs of black people. I mean, that's like one of the most cities in America where the black-white divide, historically, is most pronounced.
But it's also very, people don't realize that Charleston's very open to various religions. And
Oh, yeah?
It's a very open, always has been. So you still have French Huguenots there.
Really?
Yeah, and they speak their language in the church.
No, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fascinating. Well, we loved it. I love it. I'm always debating whether to try to get into a Charleston gallery. We now have relatives moving there. My wife's brother. So I may try harder to get in a gallery. Yeah, he's a new athletic director at Charleston Southern. I'm sure you all knew that already.
Well, it's a very closed city, actually. Strangers. You don't have Charleston blood in you.
Yeah. Now, what's your guess as to what's happening with the, there is a railing going down, a stair railing behind these bushes, right? You see that? You just see a little bit of it.
Who cares?
Yeah.
It disappeared.
Well, I'm right there working, so I might as well put it in.
Well, so I'm thinking, I think I'm going to do it a little more, I want to put it in the right place. I think I want to do it a little more than we see in the photograph. And I guess I'm trimming the bush a little bit to do that. Okay, so I'm making stuff up there, so you do not need to follow suit with me there and make stuff
I'm
up.
getting confused now. Can you stop when you get confused?
Yeah, that's a good point. Can you stop when you get confused? Yes, really you can. Because you'll just get more confused. You continue. Oh, no, I'm gonna do some stairs down here. I'm serious about, everybody should try linear perspective because you might get it. If you enjoyed geometry class in high school, then there's a good chance that linear perspective will make sense to you. Conversely, if you didn't do so great in geometry, maybe not.
Mr. Shipman,
Pardon?
I remember his name.
Yeah, Mr. Shipman. Mr. Perkins. Is that because you liked it or didn't?
Did not.
Poor Mr. Shipman. I'm cheating. I'm adding some windows in this distant wall. I think it's kind of boring not to have anything in it, and I'm making the top of that building. You don't have to do that, but that's what I'm doing. He's get it. Is it?
I'm hot.
It is,
It
yeah.
could just be something.
Now, yay. My canvas is pretty dry. I just made my hand filthy by rubbing it all over that pencil. But. Okay, you ready? There are two things we could do right now. Oh, forgive me, I'm gonna make a correction right now. When I stood back, I said, wait a minute, that line's not right. The angle was wrong, okay. We could do white for the first time, which is always kind of exciting. Or we can do glazes. Let's do glazes. Okay, now this next step, because we have these pencil marks on here, this next step is a little bit tricky. The pencil will smear if you rub it with wet brushes, okay? So what we're going to try to do is this next layer, we're going to try to put paint on and leave it, like one stroke and leave it, don't go back the other way if you can help it. Try not to go over the same area twice. If you can just lay some paint down, the pencil will stay there. Now, if you continue to use these pencils, you'll learn to play with it. Like there's some areas where you'd like to muddy up the pencil a little bit, so you just rub it a little bit to make it diffuse and muddy. But I mean, it's a gray color. It's not a pretty color. It's just a gray. So paint with a very light hand. And what color? What I want to do first is some dark values. So anywhere that there's, squint, look at your photograph, anything that's dark, we want to add some darkness. Does that make sense? And then of course, there's a lot of dark green in the foreground.
The shutters.
The shutters, yep, and the upper left-hand corner. The three corners are dark, and the shutters are dark. And the bush right in the middle is pretty dark. Let's not use green, and you can if you want. We don't all have green. Let's do it instead by building up layers of transparent color. Hang on, let me think for a minute. Let's do this, what I think is the easiest way, which is let's use purple. We're using purple because in the world of transparent colors, purple is the darkest color. Okay? And so watch me for just a minute. And if there's anything in the subject matter that is purple-ish, we can paint that too. So we're looking for anything that's dark and anything that's purple. Okay, watch me just for a minute. So that's too dark, by the way. Okay? Oh, that's too opaque. It's not transparent enough. Okay? I'm probably going to leave that there. That's more correct. This up here is all dark. Then it seems to me there's some dark shutters there, some dark shutters here, and here, and here. Okay, so we're not painting individual shutters. We're not anywhere near to that degree of detail yet. Let me do just a little bit more. Oh yeah, this big dark stuff right in the middle. And as you can see, I'm still using that. We love to see little bits of the color. I'm not coloring in the lines. One of the great dangers, anytime you put lines on your canvas, the grave temptation is then to paint in the lines. Do not paint in the lines. I'm using the lines for location purposes, but I'm not painting inside them. I don't think that's too difficult. Okay, all the way along the bottom, whoops. All the way along the bottom is some dark stuff.
And is that water you're mixing with?
Yes, yes. Sometimes I'll have this bottle of medium and I'll use this on my brushes, especially if I'm trying to do a really light glaze, but I'm not right now. I'm doing a pretty heavy glaze. Okay, I think I'm done. Isn't that crazy?
It's amazing how much paint you put on it. That's the part I'm having trouble with.
Yeah, judging how much.
paint
Well, and
you
as
put
you
on
see,
this.
I messed up the first
Yeah.
time. So then I just dipped the brushes in water to take some of the paint off. Right, if you get too much, do what I did. You know, dip your brushes in water and take it off. Try not to go over, and try not to brushy. Try not to go over it in one place or your pencil will just smear.
That's straight purple, right?
Yep, that was straight purple. Now, if you guys hadn't been watching, if I was doing this at home, I probably would have done purple and ultramarine blue combined. You may do that. I just didn't want to throw another curveball at you and make you think about too much. So just the purple will work.
This is ultimately blue. Here, so that's the first step we took.
While you are doing that, let me give you some of my recent verbiage. A week and a half ago or so, I think, I came up with another way to describe good painting process. It certainly describes the way I paint, and I think it describes the way Rembrandt paints. Me and Rembrandt. My name and Rembrandt's name often appear in the same sentence. The sentence is, he sure ain't no Rembrandt. A new way to describe the painting process. It is the paint grows in layers or stages, either one. Layer, like we're doing today. Every single layer is quite abstract. But when all the layers are added up, cumulatively, the painting is realistic. Does that make sense? I think that's a good way to describe good painting. Every layer is abstract, and yet when all is said and done, except maybe the last one, the final edit, but when all is said and done, if you did all the previous layers right, since some of you this is the first time you're trying it, don't hold your breath if you're going to get it right. By the way, a real common and appropriate reaction to my painting class is at the end of the class today you'll go, oh, now if I could start over.
It's a lot to remember.
It is, and it's like you don't really know where you're going, but after doing it once you go, oh, next time I could do better. That's a reaction I would like you to have. It's like, oh, okay, now I get it. Why didn't he say this? Well, I'm trying to say everything that should be said, but I obviously can't. So hopefully second time around. That's pretty dark, Elizabeth, but it'll do. Can you still see some of your lines under there?
Sure.
Sure. Let's pretend we can.
Why not? Yeah. Right.
Okay, take just another. I didn't give you a time limit. You should be done with the purple. It's in your estimate. Oh, you did here.
It's wiggling.
It was too much.
Is it too dark?
No, very good. Okay, we're gonna change gears, so clean those brushes, whatever. I'm telling you like I'm your mother. Clean up rapid. How many times do I have to tell you? We are gonna do, for what is for me one of the funnest changings of gears in the process, and that is we're gonna do white. Okay? Now, again, this is the latest way for me to paint. This is fresh as of no more than 3 weeks ago. So this is probably the latest evolvement. By the way, just to grow as a painter, you want to paint inside the donut of creativity. There's a donut. If you have a formula and you always do A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, you're not creative enough. You're inside the hole. You're stuck in a rut. Yeah. If, on the other hand, you're always trying, woohoo, which if anybody here an art major, were you an art major in college? Okay, that's our whole career as art majors. We were way outside the donut. What would happen today if I blew it up with dynamite? Yeah, groovy, man. Smoke something else. Yeah, and that was college. I didn't smoke, but all my friends did. And that's in case my mom's watching. Anyway, it was crazy. So that was outside the donut. Inside the donut is you have a process. And what I'm hoping to do today to all of you is to tweak your process, not to violate it, break it, just be influenced by me. Of course, until 5 o'clock, this is the right way to paint. But you're going to be influenced by it, but then this doesn't become your new law. You're always experimenting a little bit. Okay, the latest development for me is I used to wait until this was dry before I did the white. I don't know why. It's because I liked the cleanness. It's like, I don't want, look at the color is messing out my white paint. You with me? And then I grew a little bit and said, wait a minute, it's kind of cool that the color's messing out my white paint. So this is a really fun stage. I'm going to grab some brushes that are slightly larger than what I've been using to draw with. Okay, so this is what I used for the purple lines a little while ago. So I know I'm using something slightly larger because I want to be a little bit messy, right? And break out the white paint. And let me really repeat myself, by the way. If you try this technique, you don't put any medium in your white paint. Don't put any just Elizabeth.
I did it too.
That's pretty much never, right?
That's right, never.
And for oil, that's for the oil.
I'm glad you didn't
also.
make much. Rinse it out.
That's the oil.
Now, honestly, Elizabeth, you could try painting with it and see if you like the effect. Okay. And the logic is, why would you put transparent in white? Anyway, never mind. I don't know why. Somebody out there, by the way, does sell a jar of transparent white paint. What ought to be in that paint? Air, right? Or water. Transparent white. It's like, okay, it's an oxymoron. Sorry, Elizabeth. Okay,
That's all right.
you can use my white.
No,
I repent. Here, use please. I insist. Okay, you want to watch me for a bit?
Yes.
So what we're looking at now in the photograph is anything that's white, of course, but don't get stuck there. Anything that's light with an L, anything that's light in value, we might hit with this white paint. Okay?
Like the sidewalk.
Yes, like so. The most obvious place is down here where the sun is hitting. By the way, I haven't said this mantra yet today. The most important aspect of a painting is what? Does anybody know? The most important aspect of a painting is play of light. That is not a Dan Nelsonism. That's a art professorism from time immemorial. It's all about play of light.
I might need you to come find mine.
Pardon? Yeah, right. So hopefully you can still find some of the lines that you made earlier.
Did you wet the brushes with water first?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
So let me talk about how to paint for a minute. I do have a whole class, a whole day's class that I talk about nothing but brush strokes. I have 7 different categories of brush strokes and I think 6 different intensities of each category. So I have 42 different styles of brush strokes. And I recommend all of them except the one that almost all students use by default. When a student is not sure what to do, he or she almost invariably reverts to what I call brushy, brushy, brushy. Okay? Now there is a place for it's any time that you're intentionally obfuscating texture. And I would like most of you to say, I don't believe I've ever obfuscated texture in my life. Precisely. That's how often you should use brushy, brushy. It's only when you're intentionally diminishing, pushing down, pushing back texture. All the rest of the time, most of the time, your brush stroke should be put it down and leave it. Put it and leave it. Put it and leave it. Do not brush it around. That's what separates the men from the boys, forgive me. The women from the girls. In the realm of painting, the good ones, the Rembrandts, put a stroke down, say, take that. And it just so happens that their stroke is accidentally perfect in every way. Yeah, gorgeous. The essence of good, along the similar line, the essence of good painting, and this is so, I don't know what, it's so big in my mind, big in my thinking. Why am I not as good as Richard Schmid? And believe me, I say that through gritted teeth. He's one of my heroes. I love his stuff, and irritates a fire to me that I'm not as good as he is. But I'm not dead yet, so I have hope. My goal has been for years. I said I want to be a good painter by the time I'm 70. So I've only got 6 years left. I better get it in gear. And by good, I'm not inviting. Oh, you're good already. That's not what I mean. I want to be an OPA master by the time I'm 70. Well, why aren't I as good as Richard Schmid, as much as, and a bunch of other people? Because his strokes are better than mine. That's the basic reason. Because his strokes are better than mine. Is he a better drawer? Maybe, maybe not. Is he, is his color composition? Maybe. Now there may be things I don't know about. Maybe he is, but the real thing is his strokes. Every stroke is to die for, and that's what I'm aiming for. So while you are here watching me paint, do try to absorb to some degree, while you're here in person, able to watch me move. It's not so much this end of the brush you care about, it's this end of the brush. What is he doing? How is he moving his body, his hands, in order to make those marks? And forgive me again, but my marks are probably, not guarantee you, probably better than yours. Okay? But I'm here to try to give away. I want you to walk out of here with better brush marks today. So there, I've been humble and arrogant in the same 2 minutes. So, kind of balances out. Well, and he did admit he wasn't as good as Richard Schmid. Through gritted teeth, mind you. So there's some light on this bush, right? This roof up here. Well, all of this, even though this is in shade, it's light, right? When you squint, it's kind of middle. It's like, is that light or not? It's sort of, are you with me? It's sort of halfway. I don't know whether to paint that light or white or not. But I'm thinking, yeah, it's a little bit on the light side, so I'll do it. Here, the corner of this house back here, definitely light. Are you with me? Then there's some spaces in between the windows. Okay, did you see how carefully I didn't do that? I just made kind of a big W with my left hand. I would recommend painting that way. I'm beginning to get a good feeling about this painting. Just beginning. Yeah, it is. I say that, I'm not bragging. I'm really not bragging here. I want to convey this, how it feels to be forgive me, how it feels to be a good painter, how it feels to do a good painting. It always feels like a surprise, like an accident, like, golly, who put that there? As you can see by my painting style, I am not in hyper control mode. I'm almost in careening out of control mode, right? You read me right. When it looks like I'm painting like Cindy's wonderful reaction, like, that's what I was going to do, right? Like, that's crazy. Why did he do that? So whenever a painting starts to emerge, I'm always kind of like, oh, golly, it's happening again. It usually does happen, not always, but usually. It's like, dang, it's going to be good. Of course, I've learned to a large extent to trust the process, because most of the time it does turn out pretty good, but it's still always a surprise. Every time it starts to turn out, I'm going, who put that there? God, that's just crazy. And I'm starting to get some of that just right now for the first time. See, along those lines, I contend that good painting, and this is as opposed to the hyper-realistic stuff. And by the way, I think everybody ought to do at least one hyper-realistic thing in your lifetime. Just so you can stop your foot and say, damn it, I did it. Are you with me? Kind of a defiance. Look what I did. Now I'm done. I don't have to do it again. There is a wonderful, empowering sense. And you can cheat all you want. I mean, trace, grid, just project it and trace it. All that's legal when you're doing that hyper-realistic stuff. And just get out your tiny little brushes, stick out your tongue, and just do like this for hours if you have the patience. You should do one, and then you're done. And then when you show your friends your impressionistic stuff, they know it's not because you can't do real. Because there's real right over there. See, I did it once. But I think that the difference between... Oh, by the way, here, quick technique. There, that's the railing. Okay, I just scratched. Same thing there. I forgot my flag. I've completely lost my flag. Okay, flag back in. Now my flag's white. It was red. Now it's white. That's legal. There's still red leaking out over here. Forgive me, I keep interrupting myself. So I'm saying, when you paint hyper-realism, everything that's on the canvas when you finished came out of your head. Came out of your mind. You planned, predicted, and control-freaked every bit of it. Yeah, left side, exactly. When you paint this way, on the edge or just off the edge of control, sometimes you splat on the rocks. Sometimes one of those splats was one of those things that I did didn't work. But when something happens, I think this is the only way, forgive me for sounding spooky, this is the only way to have a transcendent painting, is when what's on the canvas I didn't put there. It's like, whoa, who put that there? That's way beyond, that's better than I can paint. You with me? And I think when you paint in this impressionistic manner, you open yourself up to that possibility. You can actually end up with a painting that is way better than you can do. Whereas when you paint super controlled stuff, you are limited to whatever you can do, because it all comes out of your head. Does that make sense? Here's some windows up here that are not in the photograph. I mentioned that a while ago. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. But okay, are you all painting with me? Did you start painting yet? Okay, I think I'm done. In a few minutes, go ahead and do that. In a few minutes, I'm going to interrupt you and show you something else real quick. But go ahead and start painting the white, more precisely painting the light. I need to change my water. Try not to get too tight in this phase. still has many layers to go. Try hard not to try too hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm painting blind.
So once again, you're making edits to your drawing. We could really call this the third drawing, couldn't we? It's hard to distinguish at this point, is it you call this drawing or not? I think so. We drew it once with purple and blue. We drew it once with pencils, and now we're drawing it with white. So once again, you're making edits. You can change your mind again. A little bit more how you are. Some of this I put on pretty thick. Can you tell that? I think I'd recommend doing it the same. This is not thin. We're not done yet. I think it's fair to say that certainly people who are not artists really don't understand what goes into a good painting. For instance, a child or a non-artist, if they're painting a pumpkin, it's easy. You open up your jar of orange paint, you stick your brush in the orange paint, and you paint the pumpkin, right? But if you're a good painter, you open up all your jars of all different colors, and there's purple and green and brown and red and every color in the world in that pumpkin boat, ending up looking, every layer was abstract, but when it's done, it looks like an orange pumpkin. That's sort of the difference between a real painter and a not real painter. And again, most of us, or many of us anyway, go through a journey of realism first and then maturing to impressionistic. My favorite name for this style of painting actually is abstract realism. It's realism, but the abstract elements are paramount over the picture. How are you doing? Will 2 more minutes do it? Or are you done? Are you, Rebecca?
No, no fear of that. I am slow,
Are you?
no matter what I do.
They take,
I get lost
think
in
60
lines
more
and
seconds.
proportion and
Yeah.
I just,
Drawing issues, do you mean? Literally lost in some of those
yeah,
issues?
sometimes if it's really busy, I get lost.
Yeah,
I
I
don't have
do too
some, I
sometimes.
have some places that weren't underpainted. Do I need to go back and?
No, probably not. Like they were white?
Yeah,
No, it's probably okay. Yeah, no, leave it.
okay.
Leave it. Okay, I need to interrupt you for just a minute, if you don't mind stopping. The reason is my painting is at a certain point and I want to demonstrate something that I can't wait any longer. I plastered my white on pretty thick, and there's some areas here that would take another 20 minutes to dry, and I don't have 20 minutes. So I want to show, you're going to do this, but not right now. Okay, so hang on just a minute. And I want to demonstrate this again. It's similar to what I've done earlier, but I really want to make sure that you get this. I'm going to smear my piles, the places where my paint is thick, okay? But please notice that I'm not going to go like this. Okay? This is,
Oh my God.
and I really mean that. If you try to do this slow, right, the brush is damp. If you try to do this slowly, it will stink. If you try to do it small, it won't work. Now, there's so much white on that brush now, I need to wipe it off. So I do mean, paint like a man. Sorry. I'm sure that's horrible, sexist in some way. But, I'm just joking. But, and my favorite is angles, not straight up and down. That's not an absolute. It doesn't have to be that way, but I tend to. So what I'm ending up with is two things. One, it's going to make this white dry faster, which is a great time saver because I have not gone all day. The other thing is I end up with delightful, energetic marks on, nice energy on my canvas. Okay? Okay, now, if you're already drawing, you probably need to wait a minute before you do that because all of your white is too wet. Don't do this till most of your white is dry. And I finished before you did. So wait a minute, and it's like everything else we do in painting. It's like if you're a cook, you flavor to taste, right? A good cook, I don't think. Forgive me if I'm not in my area, but I don't think a good cook goes by the book. They just use the book as a starting point, and then they cook by taste, right? Well, I think it needs a little more of this, that, or the other. And that's the way we want to paint. You don't paint by rules or process, you paint by eye. So you have to decide, like in this case, well, how much smearing is too much and how much is not enough? Who knows? You have to answer that yourself with your eyes. So what I've lost in detail, I've gained in interesting marks, gained in energy, if you will. And this will dry much more quickly than it would have. I still need to wait a few minutes for that to dry.
I know, it gets that way, doesn't it?
That's pretty wet. And in spite of our good planning, we're now stuck at a place where I have to wait, at least I do have to wait for this to dry.
Somebody needs to step away from their
Yes,
picture to see it.
that's exactly right. Yeah, so it's better from a distance?
Yeah.
It is
Yes.
better.
Good.
It's like, yay.
Yeah, good. Pardon? Yeah. And I will be going around more later. I just don't want to do too much too soon.
can see.
You're fine, you're well within the boundary. Okay, what do you want help with? You know?
I feel like I've just lost my vid, like I can't even see my house anymore.
Okay, let me fix a line. Is this supposed to be this?
Yes.
Okay, almost horizontal,
Yes, that, hang on.
so it's more like that.
Oh, gotcha. And it was too low.
Yeah. Then,
And then that one is there.
yeah, so draw that one up there. If I may, make a little bit of change,
Mm-hmm.
correct that line. Can I do this?
Yeah, that's what I want you to do.
Okay.
Is there a restroom close by?
Yes, straight out, slightly to the left. We'll all be there eventually.
That's serious.
Pretty close.
It's just right, yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Like, there's just a whole forest of pillars.
Yeah.
And we don't have to distinguish them. The big one in the corner, you've got that.
Okay.
And then there's, yeah, that's close enough. Sure. Maybe there's one there. Okay, what else?
This right here,
This, you mean
so I just need to redo that.
yeah. Now, don't erase, don't try to cover this up. Just
Okay.
let it, just leave it
Okay.
be.
Do I need to get back over with the other pillars there? or not?
Yes, you could.
Okay.
Well,
So,
barely, yeah, barely.
Okay.
I would do this line, which is supposed to be here. Do that one stronger and thicker.
It's 'cause
Yeah,
it's-
let me, not yell in Andy's ear. When you make mistakes, don't try to correct them now. We do all our correcting in the final edit stage. Until then, all those erroneous marks actually just make the painting more interesting. That becomes chaos, which is good. Does that make sense?
That actually was a lot, just the redo.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
So,
Good job. Yes.
when can you, is it?
Oh, at what point can you smear it?
Yeah, when should eyebrow?
Yeah, a damp brush. Yeah, no, wait a little bit. But this big brush again.
Yeah,
And you want it damp, not soaking wet,
okay.
and not dry, just slightly damp. We should probably take a short break in the middle of the afternoon some point, shouldn't we? I'm assuming nobody needs lunch. Are you okay without lunch?
I have ginger snap cookies, a bag of them.
No,
Anybody
you
that
do
like them,
not.
I do.
Darn. If only you'd said Oreos. No, I hate Oreos, so I'm gonna resist it, but ginger snap stuff. Thank you. No, it's not at all.
This is a little bit like scraping.
Okay, let me tell you where we're going next, just so you have some idea. We can't wait for this white to dry completely. That would take too long.
They have dryers.
They do. It gets so noisy in here. We can't hear each other. Fun.
Don't even do this.
Ah!
It's just, it's all my house.
No, go ahead. No, don't be saying it's awful. You were in.
I added more columns.
It's a whole forest of columns. You know that if I would say anything, may I touch it a little bit? Where's your chip brush? The only thing I would change is it's just a little too neat.
Oh.
Behind the white.
No, not
Not
quite.
on mine?
See that? Now your columns are a little bit more vague, so you can make the corrections easier. In other words, I'm still blocking in the painting. You were really locking in, say, there's a column here.
I've been holding my breath.
You can breathe now. Please breathe. No, you're well within shouting distance of home run. Yeah, that's hard. Yeah. Rebecca, that looks lovely.
Look at yours, look at mine, no.
Very good. Good going, novice. Yeah.
Say it once.
some of these lines right here,
Yes.
this is a little, they're too, a little bit too confident. See, look at, yeah.
Well, I like your
Mine's
dots
messy.
for, well, you got like dots in it, it's not like.
Teacher that I listen.
And this is very typical, by the way, that in the first half of the class, usually I'm urging students to be messy.
Yes.
And most of the time, the students have a hard time being as messy as I am.
Santa Fe where she's coming.
Now, when it comes to the final edit, then we're gonna trade roles. And I'm gonna say, no, now I'm trying to be as neat as I am, and the students have a hard time being as neat as I am. So very, very typical. So you can become a good leader, but you're typical of my students. If you can probably do that.
So,
Maybe.
so how wet?
I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, and just big stroke. Mary, yeah, when you do that, don't go back and forth, just go one direction, and then go another direction. Just draw X's all the way over the painting. You're probably ready to do the smearing thing.
Okay.
Yep, that's what's trying out. So, one stroke, and then stroke going, yep, and then the other way. Exactly.
Mine dry way too fast.
And that's all right.
So I wet my brush and I'm just kind of,
Yep.
I'm doing it together a
Yeah,
little bit.
and you don't need to do that. If, you'll have opportunity more often. This is not the last chance to do this, so. Is everybody back? Good. You know, yeah, in fact, I want a drink too. Does anybody else want coffee?
Yes.
Usually Amanda sets up coffee,
Yes.
She did.
and then we just have to push, no, we just have
Yep,
to
all you
push
have to
go.
do is push with a cup.
Oh, is that how you do it?
Oh, it doesn't count? Oh, it's not good.
No, I don't think so.
That's what she said.
Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe that's right, because there's not a pot there.
Is there a pot in there? Oh.
There's coffee in there.
I'm not saying just sit down.
See, I can't get my, see, that's why I'm.
I just turned it on.
Let the painting do its
Needs
self.
to brew, it hasn't brewed yet.
Yeah.
Because the coffee's
That's my name to it.
Okay. So a little circle.
So I think the next time call.
Okay. Yeah.
Money's not mine.
Rebecca, that's beautiful. Now just mess it up a little bit.
All over?
No, the stairs. And what Rebecca is doing right then, by the way, this is a trick. I use it quite a bit, especially when sometimes when I'm painting people in my landscape.
Yeah.
And people, you kind of have to get them right. They can't look like aliens with balloon heads and stuff like that. So sometimes I'll sort of tongue paint the person, There's a head, there's shoulders, there's an arm. Fix that arm. Okay, there's a waist, there's hips. I'll get it right, but it doesn't fit with the rest of the painting because I went like this. So, but sometimes I'll do that, and then while it's still wet, then I take a brush and go, wah, wah. And what the beauty is, you're still left with the accurate drawing. I mean, it doesn't completely obliterate it, it just messes it up, but you can still see the correct lines. So that's a really good trick. You can use that in anything, architecture. And what Rebecca was just doing, she was getting her stairs like just perfect, and they were perfect. Now just take a brush and brush through it, not so as to obliterate all that work that you just
get
did.
it proportioned, not curved,
Yeah.
in the right
And
place.
we're not done yet. We have, how many layers have we done? Has anybody counted today? We did the purple X, the purple thing, then we drew in purple,
Then we did warm yellow.
then we did warm yellow, then we did pencils, then we did white. Is it 5 layers? Oh, we did red, if you count that as a separate one. 5 or 6 layers. So we're halfway through the layers, maybe not even halfway. And of course, we're going to switch to oil. All the correcting detail is in oil. So all of the acrylic is very... I was a confirmed acrylic hater for 25 years. I hated acrylics, maybe because I had bad experiences in college. I had a bunch of professors that seemed to be gaga over abstract expressionism in the 70s. and they were gaga over acrylics, the friend of the abstract expressionist, are acrylics. And it was a difficult time. But about 20 years ago, all of a sudden, a light bulb came on. I discovered transparent acrylics. So it's like, that changed everything. So I still hate opaque acrylics, quote unquote. I'm exaggerating. But I love transparent acrylics, and that's, of course, that's what we're doing. All the colors that we're putting on the canvas are transparent. And white, opaque, but all the colors are transparent. And that's where the beauty is. So many times when we come to the end of the, right before the final edit stage, many of my students will have on their palette the most beautiful painting they've ever done. And then they ruin it in the final edit.
Yes.
And all of you, it sounds like all of you are candidates for this, because the people that ruin it are people that have some degree of experience with painting. Because when we get to the final stage, you go, oh, thank God, now I can paint the way I know how to paint. And they tend to plaster, cover up all this work. And they should be walking out of the class, well, that was good, but I don't know why we did all those hours of underpainting, because they cover it up in the... So when we get to that point, I'll give you all kinds of warnings, and grave warnings, about not covering. I wish you had brought ginger snaps, Nancy. No, I love ginger snaps, but weakness. There's not too many calories in one of these, though, is there?
They're pure if you eat two at a time.
Yeah.
I could see better if I put these on.
140 calories for 5 cookies.
Oh, 5 cookies, 140. You don't have to jog a mile and a half to run up that much. That's horrible thinking, isn't it? Okay, I think I'm going to turn off these people. Bye-bye. Join me sometime for a real class where you get the rest of the story. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.